Hey, this is Chris with BeerTownAustin. Well, welcome to another episode of Over a Pint. I'm here with Travis Poling. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. Oh, I spilled. We're up at the Draught House, their 41st anniversary party. Travis is here signing his book, Beer Across Texas. All right. And we're drinking the double IPA. It's a house brew here at Draught House. Josh made it. It's pretty good. I don't think it's been out for a while, but I like it.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Excellent.
Just the right hop profile. This is a lot of double IPAs. Sometimes go a little too far, and they're not really drinkable. This one, I could drink 2 or 3 of these and be happy.
Yeah. Be really happy after 2 or 3 of them. So, Travis, you wrote this book with Paul Hightower.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the research and kind of where it came from and where the idea and everything like that.
Right. I had been working for the Express News, San Antonio Express News, as a business writer, where it was something I did for 20 years, 13 of it at the Express News.
Okay.
And starting in about 1996, I guess, I started writing about beer also on the side.
For the Express News or on your own?
For the Express News, food section. And eventually started doing a column. And of course, there was a lot of focus on Texas beer.
Right.
And eventually, it just sort of started percolating in my mind that really there needed to be some sort of a guide, a paper guide. You know, there's things on there's a lot of great resources on the internet, but not everybody.
A lot of great resources.
Draught House, for example, but not a whole lot in print. Out there about Texas beer and this very sort of dynamic, changing industry and the experimentation that was going on with these brewers. And Paul and I had met, actually we met online at one of those resources at beeradvocate.com.
Okay, yeah.
And then got together in Fort Worth with some other friends and, had some beers at the Flying Saucer in Fort Worth. Anyway, we kept up conversations off and on, and when I discovered that he also had a book percolating of similar nature in his mind. And then so I actually ended up with a publisher first, and so I called him and asked to sort of if he wanted to sort of merge our ideas together. And that's how this was born, probably about 2 years ago. And of course I had been around the state interviewing different brewers for my column, and Paul also had been hitting all the places in North Texas and Austin, and had a great deal of familiarity with them. And he's also a writer, science writer.
Okay. So how did you guys, how did y'all split it up? Or did you just go out and hit up breweries on your own? Or how did the organization work for that?
I kind of took the historical perspective, sort of the 1800s, where brewing commercial brewing probably started in New Braunfels, probably in the late 1840s. And kind of took it from there and moved on up through Prohibition, probably up to maybe the 1970s, 1980s. Paul took it from there, and that became the introduction to the book with the birth of Waterloo Brewing Company and Billy Forrester, kind of getting that started, and then craft beer sort of taking off very slowly from there. And so he kind of handled that part. He handled North Texas. And some people tell me that Lubbock is not in North Texas, but in our book, it's in North Texas. Dallas is North Texas, and Lubbock is north of Dallas. So It can be argued that it could be in North Texas. Anyway, so he took that area. I took West Texas. I took, or part of West Texas. He took part of it. I took East Texas, Central, and South Texas.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then I wrote some abbreviated style guidelines for those that are new to beer, and gave some sort of Texas microbrewed examples. And he has some really great appendices in there. Also, homebrew supply shops and homebrew clubs, and just a lot of different things in there for people that want to get into brewing or just getting into tasting beer.
Right. So it's you can maybe say it's a guide to the brews and brewmasters of the Lone Star State, right?
You could say that.
Yeah, some people might have already said that.
Yeah.
I guess you guys went to a lot of cool places. What were some of your favorites, or some that you'd never been to and you were surprised by?
One that I had a lot of fun doing was going to Alpine, Texas, which is in West Texas, middle of nowhere. They're not in the book. We had a chapter in the book on the Edelweiss Brewing Company and restaurant in the old Holland House Hotel in Alpine, which is not too far from Marfa. If you're going out I-10 west toward El Paso, you sort of dip down in the middle toward Big Bend from Fort Stockton. And out there in this little town, there was a little brew pub started by a German brewer who just kind of got off the train in Alpine on his way to somewhere else and stayed. Unfortunately, he ended up moving on, opened a regular bar down the street. There were some health problems with the owner, and they ended up closing right before we came out with the book, so they're not in there.
Oh, bummer.
But it was a neat little place. One of the few female brewers in the country was brewing there at the time. So that was a neat discovery. And then of course, hitting some of the big breweries, going out to Real Ale and just seeing how well they've done. It wasn't a surprise, but it was just certainly great to see a lot of success stories along the way.
Yeah. So I guess maybe more than anyone in the state, you could say you are kind of, really have your finger on the pulse as far as beer in Texas. You were up at JBF, and I guess compared to other states, how do you think Texas fares? As far as beer goes. Texas
did fairly well in the medals, right. And they've done well in medals before. Certainly, with as few breweries as there are in Texas right now, they can't do as well as say Oregon or in places. But there are a lot of great beers out there that don't win around the country that don't win medals. So that's not really necessarily a be-all end-all judge.
Right.
The Covey in Fort Worth, the great brew pub in Fort Worth. They took 2 medals, I believe 2 silvers. Fredericksburg Brewing Company won a gold medal for their Keller beer last year, right. And this year Uncle Billy's in Austin took the gold in that category.
Uncle Billy's, we're big fans.
Brian Peters, great guy. So I got to spend a lot of time going from booth to booth of everybody that was exhibiting there, of all the Texas brewers. And I think Real Ale just keeps doing great stuff. The brew pubs keep putting out great stuff. I did not have that much familiarity as I'd like with Lovejoy's over the years, but Lovejoy's was out there putting out some just incredible beers that
Todd has really turned it around. He's done some really good stuff recently.
Yep. Had an espresso stout that blew me away, and a smoked beer that you just don't see a lot of, which I'm a big fan of. Yeah. And then of course Freetail was there. Their very first year in business, Freetail Brewing Company out of San Antonio, and their brewer is really going very experimental. And doing a lot of great things. So I think that their presence at the GABF got them a lot of attention on the national brewing scene, and I think you're going to see some big things. I don't know if any of them are going to be the next Dogfish Head or Russian River, but some of them certainly have the capability of getting that kind of notoriety.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well. All right. Yeah. This is Travis Pulling. On Twitter, he is Beer Across Texas with a TX, not the whole Texas. And it's his book, Beer Across Texas. It's in Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Amazon. And you're going to be at Book People in January, right? Doing a signing?
January 28th, we'll be there. And I know at least there'll probably be several breweries there, including St. Arnold. We'll be there. So come out and you can taste some beer, great Texas beers while we sit around and talk.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it. Cheers. Yeah.